Presumably most of you know who I am. My name's Marcus. I'm the crazy guy that emails the list with all the information about the hack nights that we run every month. And I thought we would talk today about classes I got to say in UI Kit. Just running here out of curiosity, who's actually sort of played with UIScrollView a bit? Who sort of grabbed it, dragged it across, got something up and running? Yeah? Who's like giving it both barrels and gone whole hog and put like rotations in and animations and all kinds of other interesting stuff? Okay. Who actually really enjoyed the experience and would line up tomorrow really have another go at it? Yeah, it is an interesting class. And we'll talk about some of the progressions that you can go from having a simple scroll view up and running to doing some of those things today. Just briefly a little bit about me. Red Artisan's my company. That's where I do sort of most of my freelance work these days. Sort of after hours things. I've got a blog there and my Twitter account and all that kind of stuff's all listed there. Actually during the day I work at the New Zealand Stock Exchange with Gareth and a few other guys. Mainly doing a lot of rail stuff. So for me, Coco and iPhone stuff is really hobby and sort of side projects. But something I totally really enjoy doing. So before I get to the technical stuff, I actually thought I'd take a step back and start off with a bit of a story. Back in 2008, I travelled down to Dub with Gareth and a couple of other guys that I'm sure you're in this room as well. Actually, I've got a little photo here for you. This is when we were lining up at 5 in the morning.
You don't have the one to be sleeping.
6 in the morning. And, it was all nice and orderly. We were having a break. Basically, once you go under that sign around the corner, then it's up the escalator and it's a mad sprint to the keynote to see Steve go on and say his stuff. There's actually a picture of Gareth having a nap. This is,
I haven't had any sleep since we got off the airplane.
Yeah, it was a very late night and a very early morning, wasn't it? So
I might still be drunk.
Took as much options as we could to get some rest. But anyway, it was a really great time. I really enjoyed being there when the 3G was released and the SDK was finally made available for developers, and it was really good. Went to as many sessions as I could, and I decided when I was going to get back to Australia I'd pursue doing iPhone development on the side, side projects for my rail stuff. And then maybe down the track after some side projects, get into it even full time and take that off as like a whole other career path. I got back to Australia and it was kind of it kind of happened that way to start with. I got introduced to this company called Better Sports. They have this golf guide which they sell as a book. It's a very tiny kind of back pocket guide, and these guys they'd done some work with one of the other clients I'd done some rails work for. Flashing. And basically the story was that you would go along, play a game of golf, and you might have some kind of disagreement about the rules, so you pull this out of your back pocket. And so when the iPhone was released, they were so excited and they thought, we want to get this on the phone. And it was kind of great. The guy was the same size, almost identical to the size of the phone. And so it actually fit the phone quite well. It was just a fold out thing with 20 of these pages on it. The only interesting thing was that they'd actually taken the Photos app as their inspiration for what they wanted the app to look like. And if you remember, back in 2008 when we had our first 3G phones, we used to, the Photos app was like the killer app for the 3G. You used to get it and you do this, and then 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 you do this. When you get sick of that, you do this, and then you do this. And pretty much like any app back then that did rotations or that had pinch zooming was like a killer app, and it did really well in the store. And so they said, just make it look like the Photos app. We want to rotate, we want to pinch, and that's really it. But just use our content. That's all we want. And I thought, well, that's great. I'll have a bit of a go. So I went off and looked through my notes from Dub and looked through all the sample code that I could find. Had a bit of a go. I found the page control demo that you guys probably remember from the early SDKs, which basically had a paged scroll view, and as you did swipes, it would swipe in pages of different colours. And I thought, great, all I've got to do is I've just got to get this colours replaced with the image work and the content that's on this particular app, and I'll be right. I think I quoted something like a month's worth of time after hours. I reserved the week between Christmas and New Year's to actually get it done. And then I got straight into it. I thought this is going to be awesome. Had a good go, and then quickly found out that bugger, I'm stumped. Totally stumped. No pun intended. This is Tom Dowdy, I think his name is, from Stump the Experts at WWDC. next year you guys definitely ought to go to DubDub because it's most likely the last Stomp Experts that they'll be running. They apparently won't be doing any more after the next month if they don't get some things changed at the venue. But yeah, I was completely stumped when I had to go at this UIScrollView thing, and you also remember like back in 2008 when we had no documentation, we had the Apple Docs, that was basically it. There were no videos. I mean, the DubDub videos came out 2 or 3 months later. There's no Twitter stuff. It was all just very, very tough. And I basically said, well, what I've got to do is get people that are similar to me that are trying to do this kind of stuff, and find out what other people are doing with UIScrollView and other classes. And I guess the positive from this is that that's what drove the creation of the Hack Nights. That's kind of why I sent out the thing saying, hey, everyone's get together and hack together. But I had a bit of a look around and I found out that I wasn't the only one that had problems with UIScrollView. UIScrollView has way too many knobs and switches. I finally conquered UIScrollView auto rotation woes by not using UIScrollView. Looks like Easter eggs in UIScrollView are officially a thing. This is one of my favourites. One of these days, UIScrollView, bang, zoom straight to the moon. And this one was quite timely as well. UIScrollView's one crap. God save Joe Hewitt for TT Scrollview. That was quite timely because 320 came out just as this project was due, and I was totally desperate. So I was just very lucky to be using GitHub and looking at the recent project list when it got released, and I saw it and I was like the 4th or 5th person to actually fork the project. And I emailed Joe Hewitt and I thanked him. I said, mate, thanks very much. You've just saved my ass. I've just managed to be able to get this stuff up and running in the app. And he said, no worries, and wrote back and said, I was like one of the first people to thank him. He said, I'll help you get it up and running in your application if you like. So that was a real time saver. But 320 was a really good framework to come out right at that time when I certainly needed it. So to go forward 1 year to last year's DubDub, there was a really good talk that was given by Josh and Eliza about mastering iPhone scroll views. And these guys, they really know their stuff really well. It was an awesome talk.